Hello everybody, I'm pt.III. It's time for another video of the Urborg Lhurgoyf HollowCrabVine, or whatever you wanna call it. But this is deck I made a few videos about before, since the printing of the Urborg Lhurgoyf. This is my version of a deck, and I just like playing it like this for a long time now, and I just made minor changes to the sideboard when compared to the last video I made. So I just added I have three Ancient Grudges and three Outland Liberators as my way to deal with artifact and enchantment based graveyard hate. Other than that, same stuff I played as before: two Furies, four Leyland Voids, and three Blood Moons. And the sideboard has been great so far. It's very useful in a lot of situations, and there is really nothing this deck can play against. Okay, so lately I played this list with a lot of success. Basically, I didn't have a negative list with this negative league with this deck. So I have a very high win rate in the last 6 leagues I played. Each league has been either 3-2 or 4-1. Haven't been able to go 5-0. Always, you kind of have to be kind of lucky to get the 5-0 with this deck, because you can't really win with this hand with this deck with a bad starting hand. Your starting hand has to be pretty good or decent. You can't just start with 5 lands and 1 Vengewine, or the, these kind of hands are not keepable, or 4 lands, 2 hollow ones, and it is just not doing anything. So you have to have like always have to have 2-3 lands, and you have to have some of the enablers. Enablers in this deck are Neonate, Cookbook, Hedron Crab. Urborg Lhurgoyf is both enabler and the big threat. That's why I like it. It's a big threat, but also for blue mana, it enables you to um, fill your graveyard. So actually, this breeding pool has been mediocre. I didn't play breeding pool in first versions. I added it later to fill in for some cringe cases where I needed exactly breeding pool, and that happened maybe once in 100 games, and but barely ever happens. So it is this breeding pool is not very important, but it's like decent to have it in. Actually, in that case, if this breeding pool was like Blood Crypt, and I could maybe do Lhurgoyf ability twice, I would be able to do 5-0 in one of those prior leagues. So I think in the future I may change this breeding pool to Blood Crypt to be able to use Lhurgoyf ability twice and mill 6 cards, which maybe could be relevant sometimes when later in the game, where your opponent removes your graveyard multiple times. You have one Lhurgoyf on the field, other in the hand, and if you can mill 6 cards and just get in through with a lot of damage thanks to the mill 6, it's maybe worth it. It's not that fringe case. It happens quite often. So often you have one Lhurgoyf on the field, the other in the hand, and you're able to like do uh, you have you top deck a fetch, and then you're able to get the Blood Crypt, do double Lhurgoyf ability, I think maybe it's worth it to just run one Blood Crypt because of that, because this breeding pool just hasn't been that needed so far. So I think that's a possible change for future leagues. But as I said, I've been playing this deck with great success for the last 6 leagues. So 4 3-2 leagues, 2-4-1 leagues. I think that's pretty good result for a deck like this. Graveyard decks, maybe Dredge. Uh, have been doing okay, but nothing spectacular. But Crabvine also kind of feels mediocre, and HollowCrabVine also I see it from time to time, but not too often. But for decks, for that kind of decks that I don't see that often, in modern, I think it's performing pretty well. So it has like 70%, above 70% win rate, which is in 30 matches played on Modo. So I think it's a pretty good result that I got with it. So um, I just really didn't lose much games playing this deck. So each game I lost was either sideboarding mistake where I didn't put a Liberator in and my opponent started the game with Leyline and Void, or it was some very long games that my opponent just had better luck or drew better, stuff like that. So like typical stuff that will happen with every deck. But there wasn't just there was just a few matchups that won against me very easily, and that one happened in this league. It was the Affinity deck. The Affinity deck just really was faster and overwhelmed me very soon. If they start with a lot of creatures, uh, then Urza Saga play draw two, then play their 4/4 creatures. They are able to block my Vengevines, Hollow ones soon. Even Lhurgoyf. They can always jump Lhurgoyf with if we don't get Wonder in the graveyard. But even if we do, they have Ornithopters, other flyers to block. So it's I think it's really hard matchup. They also have Shadow Spear, which raises our creatures very effectively, especially if they get one big construct, get Shadow Spear on it. It's very hard. We also play Ancient Grudges, Outland Liberators, also Furies on the sideboard, but even all that, of course, can be helpful if they draw bad and I draw good. Obviously, we can win against it, but I just don't think it's a good matchup. So we will see in this league very quick two losses against Affinities, but all other games were uh, very good in my favor. So let's just go through the league. Uh, okay, so sorry, just the first. Just a few words about the deck for people who haven't seen the previous videos. Okay, so basically this is HollowCrabVine deck, HollowCrabVine shell, usual HollowCrabVine shell that people play. And when I saw the Urborg Lhurgoyf in Dominaria, I decided that I really want to play it in this shell, and it performed pretty well for me so far, better than any other options. I tested like Ledger Shredder. Ledger Shredder to me really like feels unplayable without Mishra Bubble. Um, so I just don't think it's worth it. And it's too slow. Urborg Lhurgoyf can be played on turn 2 sometimes as already as a big threat. if you played crab on turn 1, for example, or on turn 3 you can play it, or later you can play it for 3 mana. It serves you as enabler, get some cards into the graveyard, but also at the same time it's a very big threat in this deck. It usually has 8, 9, 10 power or more in this deck, and for just 2 mana I think that's pretty incredible. So if you can give it wings with Wonder, it usually ends the game in 2 turns. So, very good threat for this deck. And to make it that good of a threat, I needed to change something in this deck. And the card I really hated was the 1 mana red guy that gets +1/+1 and menace when you cycle a card. And it was just a great opportunity for me to put Hedron Crab in instead of that card. And Hedron Crab is just a great enabler in this deck, not just for Urborg Lhurgoyf, but for also for whole deck for Vengevines, Oxys of Agonas, and it just fills the graveyard so quickly and finds Ox so consistently in this deck that now I feel like deck is unplayable without the Crab mostly. So, okay. Now we can watch some of the games. I mean, entire league, of course. So let's start. Okay, so make this window a little bit bigger. Okay, so playing second, I don't know, I have no idea what my opponent played. Uh, it was something weird. I'm really not sure what it was, so I went for the Hedron Crab Asmo this turn, find the cookbook, uh, get my Ox into the graveyard. My opponent played Mimic. I just went for Lhurgoyf on turn 3, and it's a 10-11 threat, so it's kind of pretty crazy. If I get fetch, find wonder, the game ends immediately. So this is not just a one-time thing. These kind of things happen all the time. You can see that on a turn it attacks, on turn 4 it's 15, 15, 16 before the Vengevines came back. So it's kind of pretty disgusting. So yeah. It also put the 3 card. He also put it himself 3 cards into the graveyard, which is pretty incredible. And what's happening? Just a second. Let's see. Why I can't watch. I didn't exit the last one. Probably, yeah. As I said, I have no idea what my opponent played in this game. It was some kind of Goblin Burn, I think. Yes, probably something with the Goblin Grenades. Must be. They play Goblin Guides. Okay, so this was interesting, I think, because I kind of kept 0 lander. I got the land of the Goblin Guide. I went for Inquiry turn 1 immediately, played the Rootwalla Hollow 1. Got the second land of pt.Exile, got the third land of the second Goblin Guide attack. Also had another street raid in the deck. I didn't want to kind of use it. I got back 2 Vengevines from the graveyard, played both of the hollow ones, and I think this was my opponent conceded, so it was just too much for his deck. He could have maybe like, yeah, it was, he plays like Shrapnel Blast and Goblin Grenade. This was the only artifact I saw so far, so I'm not really sure what my opponent was doing, but yeah, that was like Goblin Grenade stuff with Shrapnel Blast, so spells that deal 5 damage with cheap creatures. It's a decent idea. Yeah, we saw Mimic, sorry. I'm sorry, we saw Mimic, so this Changeling, so yeah, maybe it seems like a decent strategy, but not fast enough to fight this deck. So that was it. Fast game one. We will save the loss for the last game. Okay, so in this match, playing second, keeping a decent hand. This was the I forgot the name of the deck, but in this situation, I know you know this is the Undercity Performer, the Bastard Spy deck. Okay, so you know they don't play removal, so it's pretty safe to play Hedron Crab on turn one, holding fetch for turn two. Um, Unfortunately, they have Prism on turn two, which means they can combo next turn. So I just wanna try to disrupt their combo by Burning Inquiry and put as much power on the field as I can. I remove the Butler Spy from their hand with Inquiry, and they didn't have. It seemed like they didn't have another one, and that was it. They conceded. Uh, so very quick game. Games against this deck are often very quick. So again, game two started with Leyline of the field and a decent hand. I need just another creature to be able to put Vengevine into play on turn two, but I decide to go Inquiry on turn one and just play Hollow one. I still just need a creature to get Vengevine into play on turn two. A cheap creature, didn't get it. I went for it anyway with Neonate and unfortunately find just the Ox without a way to discard it. So I just, but I had the Leyline in the starting hand, which is obviously pretty good. This was pretty good because I was able to, I get the Ox, I could have played the Ox, but I wanted to use the Urborg Lhurgoyf from the hand because he was also big right now and he was ending the game the next turn, so there was a need to discard it. Okay, so that was it. My opponent didn't have solution for Leyline in that game. Some very quick games this league. Okay, so match three, again starting second, keeping a decent hand. My opponent is playing a Prowess. I just went for Cyclo Street Trade to get the Asmo, so I definitely don't want to play Hedron Crab against Prowess on turn one. We need to save it for turn two. My opponent plays the Sprite Dragon. I go for the Hedron Crab. So it's pretty important. Okay, so it's pretty important in a lot of these cases when it's not on turn two, but after turn two, it's often important to get the landfall ability from Hedron Curve on the stack and then secure fetch before you resolve that ability. So because in a lot of cases, it is possible that it happens you mill both of your basics you want to find or and in a lot of cases that is really unfortunate, especially when you're trying to do this on turn three. And on turn three you mostly want to find the basic because in that situation you already have the blue source, you already have one green source, in the most cases, and then you just need mountain on turn 3. So you just play your fetch, get the landfall ability on the stack, then a secure fetch, get that mountain, and then resolve both landfall abilities from the crab at the same time. Okay, so at this situation, I was able to play the crab, play the cookbook, get the food, play the rituala of the madness, and get Vengevine back and attack for 7 immediately. I also had. Okay, so with this attack with Rutvala Champ, I had exactly 8 cards in the graveyard, which meant I can now discard the Ox and play it immediately next turn. I had to remove all my graveyard, but that wasn't important because uh, I was able to play, to get 2 hollow ones, discard the Vengevine, get back another Vengevine into play, and play 2 hollow ones. So that's and attack for almost lethal. My opponent didn't have much. I was also able to get second treasure, kill their Sprite Dragon. Okay, so sorry, that was game 1, was it? Can't remember. Sorry. Yeah, that was game 1. Okay, so game 2, I decided to keep one lander. Immediately drew a second land. This is one of the very rare situations that I went for the green source on turn 1. So in 99% of situations, you always go for the steam vents on turn 1 because the Hedron Crab is so important. If you top deck it turn 2, you will be very sorry you didn't get the steam vents. But this is one of the very, very rare situations where I planned my turn 2 play, and I expected it to be discard Vengevine with Cookbook, and then play the Goyf, and play the Fury with exiling Neonate from hand. But after top decking the Asmo, I decided to go for the decided to go for Neonate Asmo, and then maybe leave Fury for the next turn, but I top decked the red card immediately, and I was able to play it all. So I killed my opponent's creatures, get 7 power on the field. Unfortunately, my opponent had removal for Asmos, so I wasn't able to deal with Sprite Dragon, but I had still had Urborg Lhurgoyf in hand, which was 4/5 in this case, and the ability to grow bigger next turn. So my Goyf was now 6/7 out of the Unholy Heat range. Some versions play it. I don't think this does, but okay. I went for a second green source here and attacked with Vengevine, and and they were on 4 life, so they needed a removal for Vengevine, which they didn't have, so that was it. That was a game against Proves. This was the last match of the league, but not the last I will show. We'll still have to watch the loss after all these games, so I decided to go for the inquiry on turn 1. Often in a lot of these situations, I struggle uh, not struggle, but I think about whether or not to play the inquiry on turn one. If I have like two hollow ones, I will certainly do it. But in most cases, mm, I like trying to do it on turn two to be able to try to discard the Vengevine. If I don't get it into the graveyard with inquiry ability, and then like play play something like a cookbook or neonate to discard the Vengevine, and then maybe go hollow one to get Vengevine immediately back. Some of these crazy plays are often possible in this deck. Okay, so in this situation, I succeeded to play Diasmo and to get the Vengevine back. And okay, so this was I wasn't exactly sure what it was. I just saw the ending, bold reunion, but as soon as you see all red lands and reunion, you kind of expect the creativity, and especially when they play Fable. Okay, so it was definitely creativity, but some version that don't play persist. Okay, so my opponent was able to attack with Goblin and gets two Archons on the field, which was two Archons was definitely too much on turn 4 for me, so there was nothing I could have done. I was just kind of too slow this game, so I needed to keep better lands and better hands and try to be faster in the future games. Okay, so I've went with Asmo turn 1, which is a good start. Unfortunately, they got rid of the Asmo, but I had the Inquiry, and I was able to get the Vengevine back with the Rotvala, and also played my Hollow one same turn, and it was good enough for my opponent. He immediately conceded. Okay, so it was time for game 3. Okay, so there is really a lot of stuff you can do here on turn 1. You can go like Inquiry, you can go Cookbook, you can just these options are very different and can result in a huge uh, hugely like different outcomes. Okay, so I top decked second hollow one, and I was able to keep both hollow one in hand after inquiry. So I played both of my hollow ones, get back Vengevine, also played Diasmo, and end of turn I played the Blazing Rotvala, which was very close to lethal. It wasn't lethal, but put them on 11, which means on 1 life, which means they can't fetch to go for the creativity, which is basically game over for them. So they concede, and that was it. So you just got to be a bit lucky after losing that game 1. Game 1 was just not not good enough, very slow hands. So after losing that one, we will now watch the defeat. Okay, so defeat was against the Affinity deck. I think that's one of the bad matchups for this deck. Like they are also have this similar gameplay, explosive starts, and we can definitely win with this deck against Affinity. But I think um the deck really needs to draw good, and they need to draw bad to be able to do it. Because they're as aggressive, but they have the monitor which draws them cards, and now the anchor, which also draws them a lot of the free 4/4s, which are very good against our decks, which also plays free 4/4s. So it's I didn't have a second land here to try to do something. Um, I had the street trade, had the neonate, two draws, but didn't find it. They also had the plating on the top monitor on turn 3, so it was too good. Too fast, and I said these two decks are pretty similar, trying to do similar thing. I had the Grudge here, I had the Liberator, but when you have those in starting hand, that means that you'll be way slower. I went for Outland Liberator, hoping that I could maybe just attack, pass the turn, turn into knight, then maybe start using Liberator better. But this automaton was already big, so I had to deal with it soon, and that makes me even slower. Just resolving my just so slow. And I had the grudge here, but it's just, all of this just don't mean too much. I have the asthma, I have the ability to make two cookbooks, two foods soon to try to kill some creature. But opponent is doing similar stuff. I just removed all the bad cards from their deck, from their hand with Inquiry. That probably helped them. They got the second monitor and they got Years of Saga, so I really helped them to win this game more quickly. I traded with Frogmite, but just didn't have a lot of stuff going on. I really needed to draw. Uh, they also didn't have much, but they had Saga. I could make second food and to kill something, but it just doesn't matter because plating and Saga will kill me in 2 turns, or sorry, this turn. Not this turn because I have the grudge in the graveyard, but uh, Saga will kill me in a few turns, definitely. I just needed to have like um, the guy that I can play from the graveyard to draw 3 Ox of Agonas to get anything out of this game, and that's it. Okay, so some very quick games through this league. Uh, okay, so league prior to this would also be a 4-1 league, probably, but maybe, but I was disconnected and reimbursed for this match. So I also had only one defeat. Um, so I'm doing pretty good with this list. I'm very happy with how it's performing. Um, uh, I Lhurgoyf was very good in this league in the few occasions I played it. Um, I don't know, maybe uh, if I was thinking about this deck, what I could add, what's the other card I could add that would make this possibly uh, a better deck, but I just like Lhurgoyf much better than other solutions. I can see cutting Lhurgoyf to 3x, um, maybe hitting 4 to Tvala instead, or something like that. But I think Lhurgoyf is definitely good in this deck, and this is definitely there to stay in for at least as far as I'm considered, at least if as a 3x, if not as a 4 off. Okay, so that's it. Um, League was pretty quick, and so the video will be. I hope you enjoyed the matches. Some of these matches are so explosive that kind of hard to follow what exactly happened on the screen, but I tried to explain all the basic stuff. If you are familiar with the deck and you follow the previous videos, you won't have too many problems figuring it out. Okay, so that's it. Hope you like the video. You can help the channel by subscribing, uh, liking, and that's it for this time. Goodbye.